breakout star, Caitlin Clark's bodyguard.
And it literally like pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What? When people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
The way Caitlin Clark is being targeted is no longer just a theory, it's a deliberate.
It just took one Instagram comment to ignite the WNBA as a whole. Sophie Cunningham didn't hold back while criticizing the league's top leader. Her harsh remarks caused players, fans, and experts to take sides within hours. Professional women's basketball could be permanently altered by the aftermath, which is still spreading. May 13, 2026. Cunningham was using her phone to browse Instagram when the Indiana Fever were finishing up their season when she came across something that infuriated her. Nafisa Collier, a standout player for the Minnesota Lynx, recently revealed in a shocking news conference that she had discussed player compensation in private with WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. Let's just say that everyone who heard what Engelbert supposedly said about Caitlin Clark didn't like it. Standing at the stage with a prepared statement, Collier's remarks struck like a dagger despite her steady voice. She described how, months prior, she had questioned Engelbert about the league's plans regarding rookie compensation, particularly for players who are obviously bringing enormous sums of money into the WNBA, like as Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Bueckers. Collier said that Engelbert's reaction was astounding. According to the commissioner, Clark should be thankful for earning $16 million off the court because she wouldn't be able to make any money without the platform the WNBA provides. However, the worst part wasn't even that. Engelbert allegedly told Collier during that same conversation that players ought to be on their knees expressing gratitude to their fortunate stars for the media rights agreement she secured for them. Those statements struck a distinct note with their haughtiness. This was no longer just about Clark. It was about all the players who had spent years honing their craft. The league's leadership claimed credit for their accomplishments. Keir's remarks went beyond mere grievances. It was a planned assault on every flaw in WNBA leadership. Despite having what she regarded as the greatest players and fans in the world, she termed the league's management the worst in the world. She described how, during an unmatched game in February, she had contacted Engelbert in the hopes of receiving genuine information regarding player compensation. Rather, she received condescending comments that essentially urged celebrities to be grateful for scraps. Keir had been carrying this dissatisfaction for months, according to many sources who later corroborated that she had told teammates and other players about this talk within days of it occurring. Her decision to make her exit interview public was a calculated move. Collier was applying maximum pressure on league leadership at the most painful time, as collective bargaining talks heated up and a deadline of October 31st loomed. Nor was she merely speaking for herself. In her role as vice president of the WNBA Players Association, she was speaking for hundreds of women who had been keeping their mouths shut for years while their sports popularity skyrocketed and their pay remained pitifully low. Keir wasn't being abstract when she brought up accountability. She gave specific instances of poor calls made by referees with no repercussions and of league officials shielding incompetent referees while penalizing players for expressing the truth. It wasn't a heated moment. She had completely lost faith in this planned, methodical dismantling of authority. Sophie Cunningham is not like other WNBA players. Her past demonstrates that she is built differently. She became the youngest person in Missouri to receive a black belt in Taekwondo at the age of 6. She carried the same self-control and restrained anger into basketball. But what truly makes her unique is her devotion. Fans soon discovered Cunningham wasn't just another guard when she joined the Fever earlier this year from the Phoenix Mercury. She served as Clark's bodyguard and enforcer, ready to fight when officials failed to defend the biggest star in the league. Cunningham had been involved in several physical altercations this season while protecting Clark from cheap shots and dirty actions. Things got out of control during a game versus the Connecticut Sun in June. After a hard foul, Connecticut guard JCS Sheldon pursued Clark and knocked her to the ground. Cunningham became enraged. She literally slammed Sheldon to the ground with a full bear hug tackle on the very next play, igniting a furious altercation. The league quickly expelled Cunningham and penalized him $500. However, after that ejection, an amazing thing occurred. Every retail site sold out of her jersey in a matter of hours. In a single week, she gained almost 800,000 new fans on social media. In an instant, she became a folk hero. Every elite athlete wishes they had this teammate. Fans began referring to her as Clark's personal bodyguard and enforcer since she genuinely supported her when officials failed to carry out their duties. Throughout the season, Cunningham received numerous fines for criticizing officials on social media, but she refused to back down. She would make a joke about launching a GoFundMe page to pay Clark's $200 fine for disparaging referees. She would openly accuse league authorities of failing to safeguard their star. The fines continued to accrue. She was unconcerned. All of it would be overshadowed by what Cunningham said on Instagram on Tuesday afternoon following Keir's press conference, solidifying her position as the most daring voice in women's basketball. We must first ascertain the true absurdity of Engelbert's purported remarks before moving on to Cunningham's answer. Not only do the figures refute her claim, but they also totally disprove it. Clark agreed to a $338,000, 4-year contract with the Fever. $76,000, $535 was her first year's salary. In contrast, the top choice in the NBA draft that year, Victor Wembanyama, signed a 4-year contract worth $55 million, earning more than $12 million in just his first season. This is what Engelbert appears to have overlooked, though. Even before she entered a WNBA arena, Clark was already a huge celebrity. She had previously inked a $28 million contract with Nike during her final year at Iowa. Even in her college years, she was earning more than $3 million from endorsements. She drew 18 in her last college game versus South Carolina. 7 million viewers, with a peak of 24. 1 million, making it the most viewed basketball game on ESPN, not women's basketball, since 2019. Everything is basketball. This covers every game in the NBA Finals, every game in the NCAA men's tournament, and everything else. Clark accomplished it while receiving absolutely no compensation from the WNBA. Therefore, Engelbert was effectively claiming credit for a phenomenon that existed completely independently of the league when she purportedly stated that Clark should be thankful to the WNBA for her platform. But depending on your point of view, it either becomes better or worse. The WNBA did not provide Clark with a platform when she joined in 2024. She provided them with a lifeline. ESPN's viewership increased by 170% over the prior season. The average number of spectators at home games increased from 4,000 to over 17,000 due to the Fever, necessitating the relocation of games to larger venues in order to meet demand. All teams saw a 48% increase in league attendance. Due to the overwhelming demand for tickets, teams like the New York Liberty and Las Vegas Aces began shifting their games against the Heat to NBA arenas. A $2 was signed by the WNBA. $2 billion media rights deal with numerous networks. Executives freely acknowledged that Clark's ability to capture attention played a significant role in those discussions. Clark was in the most watched WNBA games ever recorded by 6 separate broadcast networks. In a single season, the league's videos received more than 2 billion views on social media. Sales of merchandise increased by 600%. Several financial analysts claimed that Clark's debut season brought in more money for the WNBA than the preceding 5 seasons put together. However, Clark should be appreciative since the WNBA provided her with a platform. In actuality, Clark saved a league that had been losing money for several years. The commissioner allegedly instructed her to be appreciative of the chance rather than expressing gratitude. That is deluded, not just tone deaf. Cunningham's remarks on Instagram were delivered with such accuracy that they were like a knockout punch. She posted exactly what millions of fans were thinking beneath a post about Keir's press conference. "C is the sole reason people are familiar with Kathy. Our league has never seen a more delusional leader than her." To ensure that no one missed her point, she then added another comment in all caps. "And our commissioner should never be the topic of discussion in the first place." The internet blew up. Fans took screenshots of the comments and shared them on every social media site within minutes. Sports pundits spent whole segments dissecting the drama. Some described it as the most audacious player protest against league leadership in the history of professional sports. League officials were unable to ignore the wave of camaraderie that emerged when other WNBA players began and sharing posts endorsing both Cunningham and Collier. In the midst of the turmoil, Stephanie White, Clark's new coach, publicly referred to Keir as a strong woman, therefore endorsing everything that was said. Cunningham's call-out was heartbreaking for more reasons than just the words. It was the indisputable reality behind them. Before Clark, no one knew who Kathy Engelbert was. In 2019, the commissioner became the first person in WNBA history to hold that post, although for 5 years, casual sports fans seldom noticed her. Angel Burt didn't start making headlines on a regular basis until Clark Mania took over in 2024. Those headlines weren't flattering anymore. They were recording her claimed disparaging remarks about the biggest star in the league, her seeming ignorance of what was truly spurring growth, and her refusal to acknowledge that the WNBA's success should have been attributed to the players rather than management. Because it was so blatantly accurate, Cunningham's straightforward statement that people only knew Angel Burt because of Clark was a stomach strike. Cunningham had already engaged in conflict with league leadership. By no means. She has been accruing fines like merit badges for the whole 2025 season. She openly accused referees of failing to safeguard the league's star player following the Connecticut Sun altercation that made her a household name. She said that the scenario had been brewing for months and that officials had done nothing to stop it. Once more, she was fined. She didn't express regret. She was even more critical of critics on her podcast, Show Me Something, which she started with Colin Cowherd's The Volume Network and her childhood buddy West Wilson from Bravo's Summer House. She used several F-bombs in the first episode while defending Clark against those who said she wasn't the league's face. When people say things like, "She's not the face of the league," it genuinely irritates me. "What?" Cunningham exclaimed, her voice rising with real rage. "I'm not disparaging the excellent, well-known individuals in our league. We have a lot of badasses in our league. I'm all for that, but when people try to claim that she's not the face of our league or that we wouldn't be where we are without her, you're as stupid as __. You're literally as stupid as FC Key." That video went viral right away, receiving millions of views across platforms and earning Cunningham additional fines from the league office. She made fun of the fines on social media, turning them into entertainment and essentially challenging authorities to pursue her further. Engelbert was likened to other sports commissioners like Adam Silver and Roger Goodell by her podcast co-host, who said that prosperous leagues prioritize and embrace their stars. LeBron James and Steph Curry are heavily marketed by the NBA. Every advertisement and marketing campaign the NFL can manage features Patrick Mahomes. However, the biggest star in league history was purportedly told by the WNBA's commissioner to express gratitude for the chance to play. What sort of self-destructive, outdated leadership was that? Additionally, Cunningham disclosed insider knowledge from her time with the Phoenix Mercury, acknowledging that her former teammates there had actually plotted to rough up Clark before she joined the Fever. "We're going to show her what the W really is," Cunningham added, referring to the conversations Phoenix had in their locker room. What many fans had suspected was confirmed by that admission. While referees turned a blind eye, veteran players who were envious of Clark's success physically attacked her. Cunningham persisted in writing, speaking, and promoting the idea that players should have received better treatment from their league office throughout it all. The fines continued to accrue. She really didn't give a damn. With episode downloads matching some of the league's real game viewership figures, her podcast became a must-listen for WNBA fans. Companies like Ring Home Security and Arby's began offering her endorsement opportunities because they adored her genuine, unfiltered demeanor. By simply choosing to remain silent when injustice occurred in front of her, Cunningham had unintentionally stumbled into a media empire. For Angel Burt, the timing of this whole thing could not have been worse, and that was probably the whole goal. Only a few weeks after Keir's press conference, the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement was scheduled to expire on October 31st. The league's players were already engaged in heated discussions for a new contract, and by all accounts, they were far from reaching a consensus. The Players Association, headed by President Nneka Onyeamaka and Vice President Nafisa Collier, had been actively advocating for improved working conditions, increased pay, and real revenue sharing in light of the league's tremendous expansion. Negotiations were already strained prior to Collier's shocking revelation. League administrators have cited sustainability as an excuse for their reluctance to increase player compensation. Players were becoming more and more irritated with what they perceived to be dishonest negotiation strategies, even though they had signed a multi-billion-dollar media agreement and were enjoying record income. Then Cunningham attacked Angel Burt's leadership on Instagram right after Keir's press conference went off without a hitch. All of the league's players were suddenly supporting them. Current and past players expressed their dissatisfaction with the league's treatment of them in a plethora of social media posts. One of the most renowned voices in the game and a four-time MVP for the Las Vegas Aces, A'ja Wilson, expressed her disdain with Angel Burt's purported comments and promised to support Keir no matter what. Another Aces star and first vice president of the Players Association, Kelsey Plum, disclosed that the more suggestions players gave, the worse the negotiations had really gotten, implying that league officials weren't at all bargaining in good faith. On all social media platforms, fans began demanding that Angel Burt step down. Sports writers harshly criticized her leadership and questioned if she was the best person to run the league during this pivotal time of expansion. Then, at the WNBA Finals trophy ceremony, an extraordinary event occurred. When Angel Burt took the stage, the audience genuinely jeered at her. It got that terrible. Fans deliberately jeered a commissioner during the league's largest celebration. The picture of her awkwardly standing there in the face of jeers quickly became a meme and a perfect representation of how cut off she had grown from the WNBA's true supporters. Angel Burt made an effort to react, but everything she did seemed to exacerbate the problem. She first issued a statement in which she expressed her deep respect for Keir and promised to improve going forward. However, she effectively called Keir a liar in the same sentence, claiming that the conversation did not take place as Keir claimed and lamenting the errors in media coverage. The fact that Engelbert was deceiving a reputable union vice president only made the players more irate. Then, in a news conference prior to the first game of the WNBA Finals, Engelbert expressed her disappointment and asserted that she was a human being with a family that was heartbroken by the comments. When players were out there campaigning for living wages, she tried to play the victim card by talking about how sad her kids were, which felt terribly tone-deaf. Although she made it clear that she didn't say the lines about Clark being appreciative and the players being on their knees, she didn't offer any other explanation for what she actually said in that February exchange. When asked for specifics, she sidestepped, complained about clickbait and claiming it wasn't useful to go through each comment point by point. Several writers observed that Angel Burt appeared to be more focused on maintaining her own reputation than on resolving the players' justifiable complaints. In an attempt to resolve the situation, she texted Collier directly to set up a meeting. However, Collier completely canceled the appointment after hearing about Angel Burt's news conference, in which she played victim and denied everything. That was the extent of the relationship's burn. According to reports, Angel Burt's player popularity rating was almost zero, and league officials were beginning to worry about the implications for CBA negotiations. According to the Sports Business Journal, which cited several sources, Engelbert will probably step down as commissioner at some point after the new CBA was finalized. The article described the situation as relationship-driven and related to her interactions with players and co-workers. Despite a WNBA spokesperson's unequivocal denial of such accusations, no one took them seriously. It was clearly written on the wall. Everyone understood that Angel Burt's term was coming to an end. The entire issue revealed far more than the purported remarks of a single commissioner. It exposed a basic gap between the WNBA's management and the players who really run the league. Because WNBA earnings were insufficient, players had been working overseas during the off-season for years in countries like China, Russia, and Turkey. Jackie Young, the highest-paid player in the league, earned slightly more than $250,000 in 2025. That may seem respectable, but consider how much an NBA player can earn in a single game. In the meantime, these women were aware that the WNBA had recently signed a $2 contract, witnessing record-breaking attendance at its games, and witnessing arenas sell out for the first time in league history. Despite a $2 billion media deal, they continue to get poverty wages in comparison to their actual income impact. While the average NBA pay was more than $10 million, the average WNBA wage was only $130,000. People frequently bring up revenue disparities. However, this important statistic refutes that claim. Players in the WNBA get roughly 9. NBA players receive almost 50% of basketball-related income, compared to 4% of league revenue. WNBA players were being treated unfairly, even after taking into consideration the enormous disparity in overall earnings. Engelbert's purported remarks on Clark's gratitude summed up all the resentment these players had been holding within for years. What many had suspected was proven. The players who were spearheading this extraordinary expansion were not genuinely valued by the league's administration. Instead of viewing them as the engine that powers everything, they saw them as interchangeable parts of a machine. They wanted to take credit for the achievement while compensating those who made it possible, as if they were grateful for the opportunity. Because of this, Keir's remarks went beyond simply condemning Engelbert's remarks regarding compensation. She discussed the league office's lack of responsibility, officials making bad decisions with no repercussions, and a leadership structure that penalized players for voicing their opinions while shielding referees who were unable to do their duties effectively. She said that even minor criticism might result in thousands of dollars in fines for players. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe, and enable all notifications so you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one after you click the video on the screen.